Staring contest, I won. Okay, it was so awesome talking to Dennis, and on the last video, what a kind, Christian, humble soul. I hope the video, I just don't know if it did justice with what a good soul this person is, Dennis. And it was just a pleasure being around him for a short period of time. We immediately became friends. There were others that I got to visit with at this meeting. Some were individuals that were employed by Cardio Miracle, but others were there to give testimonials for some kind of video presentation. I have no idea. Sue and I did our thing for it, and we'll see how that, if ours is used or not, I don't know. But doctors, professional people, so one guy, just an awesome guy from Florida, PhD, doctorate, from Harvard and other universities. I mean, just a brilliant man in his field, and he knows all the science behind nitric oxide and all that it does. So cool. He's Jewish, and so where I'm talking to him, I said, "Well, how Jewish are you?" And he's kind of like taken back. We just had a great visit, and found that there was so much we had in common with people from all walks of life, from all over the country. It was just a great meeting. Okay, now, I'm telling you, I'm having a hard time focusing on so many different things out of Isaiah. It's just frustrating because there's just so much there. Now, you all know this, but just so we understand, Isaiah, 100 plus years before Jeremiah, before Lehi. So he's witnessing or has just witnessed the scattering of the northern kingdom. He's in the southern kingdom. He's in Jerusalem. But he knows what happened with the scattering. And I love this because, I'll just tell you, I'm from the tribe of Ephraim, through the loins of Joseph and then Ephraim. And I know many of you are as well, but not all. And we kind of go, yes, we're from the tribe of Ephraim. We have a special calling in the latter days, and we're special people. And we are, but not because of just the fact of our lineage. That's more of a responsibility. But Ephraim gets smacked down in many chapters of Isaiah. So, and again, Isaiah is a witness to this, of what particularly the tribe of Ephraim, and they had so much. So the land that they were in was some of the most fertile part of the northern kingdom. Now we know there was a mixture, right? We're centuries later than Moses and the children of Israel were. Time has marched on, so we know that there is intermarriages and all these kind of things, but there's still this stigma or this area that was the original area of Ephraim, and so they're still identified. This is my understanding anyway. And so this area of Ephraim, northern kingdom, fertile area, I've been through there and seen it and felt it, like this is my land. I feel like I'm home. But Ephraim were bad people. And they followed the priests of Baal. They sacrificed not the right things. They went after other gods, and and really in some ways facilitated all of Israel, because when we say Israel, usually it's a reference to the northern kingdom. You know, you have Judah and Jerusalem, and then you have Israel, which not always, but for the most part, Old Testament, and in the time we're reading, when it says Israel, it's referring to the northern kingdom. So here's what bugs me about us in the church is we'll take the positive things out of Isaiah, the double meanings, you know, the current condition that Isaiah is talking about, that also applies to the latter days. There's no question about that. But we focus always on the positive aspect if it's concerning us in our day. Just review, you know, we'll say like in chapter 2, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And it goes on. And so we go, that's us. And rightfully so, double meaning. But the original, or the main focus, is that the word of the Lord to Isaiah saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Okay, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. So that's the main meaning. Okay, so then what we do is we really skip over this idea, this vexation, this negative comments about Ephraim. And so I want to go to, I'm going to be skipping around just a little bit here, but if we go to chapter 28 of Isaiah, we'll get what, I think I'll be able to explain what I want to, when we're talking about the negative aspects of Ephraim and how we as Latter-day Saints go, well, this just applies to them at that day. It doesn't apply to us now. Oh, really? Oh, really? So if it's something really positive, the mountain of the Lord's house will be established in the tops of the hills. That's us. But if it's Ephraim being as drunkards, doesn't really have to do with the last days. Doesn't have to do with us. Really? Well, let's just see here. Okay. Chapter 28. Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim. Okay? And you can check out the footnotes here. The footnote B under Ephraim, at least in my scriptures, the leading tribe of the northern 10 tribes of Israel, about to be captured by Assyria, 722 BC. Okay? So, the drunkards of Ephraim. And I have a really good definition of drunkard. I think I did a little bit of research on what that would actually mean. It can actually mean, drinking of wine, but there's some other meanings. I'll get into that in a minute after I finish reading this. Behold, the Lord, Okay. Woe, I'm going to start again. Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. So they had all the fertile valley, the fat valley, if you will, and they're overcome with wine, literally, but we'll talk about that, what else it means. Verse 2, behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hail, and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand. The crown of pride, The drunkards of Ephraim shall be trodden under feet. Now, it's going to happen then. It's going to happen then for sure. And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower, and as the hasty fruit before the summer, which when he that looketh upon it seeth, while it is yet in the hand, he eateth it up. And then verse 5, it's a new thought, but it's attached to the previous one. In that day, shall the Lord of hosts be for a crown of glory and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of his people, and for a spirit of judgment to him that sitteth in judgment, and for strength to them that turn the battle to the gate. Now, to me, verse 5 through 7, or 5 and 6, 5 and 6, that's the switch that says, okay, I've told you about the current time of Isaiah. Ephraim's going to get conquered. The Assyrians are going to come. But then the switch turns and says, now in that day, and that's a future day, which is right now, in my opinion, like things are going to happen. Now, verse 7, but they also have erred through wine and through strong drink are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in judgment. And I love verse 8. For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. Now, if you look at the heading of verse 28, woe to the drunkards of Ephraim, exclamation point. Revelation comes line upon line and precept upon precept. Christ, the secure foundation, is promised. Okay, so that gives a heading. And I've heard that Bruce R. McConkie did most of the headings in these, but I can't confirm that. I can't confirm or deny. So I don't know that. But the rest of this is just so good. Christ being the cornerstone, the foundation, and he that believeth shall not make haste. It's just good. That's verse 16. But to stick to this idea of Ephraim. Now, here's a definition I got, which I think is pretty good because it fits and it was also confirmed with some other definitions. So the idea is, or the word is, woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. And then this person says, drunkard in this instance is used metaphorically, referring to one who is carried away with his own sense of power, pride, and glory. The Israel, had become drunk with power and false religious zeal, the Baal worship. In the East, when people are carried away with their false pride and power, we say they are drunken. So I think it feels good to me. I'll let you guys decide what you think. But we have those that have a sense of their own power, pride, and glory. So now let's go back to chapter 24. I think we could have started with chapter 24, but I wanted to get right into the drunkards of Ephraim because I think we are very susceptible as Latter-day Saints of being drunkards of Ephraim because of our lineage, because of our membership in the kingdom. We get into this situation where we could, not all of us don't, but we could, and at times it's not like always, but at times we could fall into this pride cycle. The Book of Mormon points out, and the Book of Mormon is for our day, right? So there's a lot of fingers pointing to this time period, the last of the last dispensation, if you will. So verse 24 or chapter 24 is fascinating, and it ties in directly to Doctrine and Covenants section 1, which I've covered before. And I hope I can find my other scriptures. But anyway, I'm going to start verse 4 just because of time. So Isaiah chapter 24, verse 4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. Now, I'm going to go back. That's verse 4. I'm going to go back and read the heading. Men shall transgress the law and break the everlasting covenant. At the second coming, they shall be burned. It's not funny, but we know the time period that this is talking about. Okay, I'm going to start again. The earth mourneth, which you can tie into Moses 7, where the earth groaned or moaned. The earth, we've talked about this before, has a spirit, Mother Earth, and fadeth away, and the world languisheth. So you have the earth and then the world of the people, in my opinion, and the earth is the globe, the land, the water, the air, right? And fadeth away, and the world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. There it is. The haughty people of the earth. Okay. So not the earth, but the people that live on the earth. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. So that the inhabitants are defiling the earth. This is really important. Because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinances, broken the everlasting covenant. Now, let's read again. We've talked about this before, but let's see how the Doctrine and Covenants says this. Section 1, which is the introduction that came. It's not chronological in the time frame. Section 1 isn't like the first thing that happened, but it came later. But as the scriptures were collected, and you all know this, but as the scriptures were collected and decided to create the Book of Commandments or the Doctrine and Covenants, Section 1 was the revelation given to introduce the scripture. Okay, so I'm going to start in verse 14. And the arm of the Lord shall be revealed, and the day cometh that they who will not hear the voice of the Lord, neither the voice of his servants, neither give heed to the words of the prophets and apostles. I submit those were the ancient apostles and prophets, as well as future. But at this time period, this referred to the ancients, shall be cut off from among the people. And now listen to verse 15. For they have strayed from mine ordinances. This one says they changed the ordinances, but they have strayed from mine ordinances, have broken mine everlasting covenant. Okay? Now, I'll just finish reading. They seek not the Lord to establish his righteousness, but every man walketh in his own way after the image of his own God. Now, see, this is interesting because that's the exact definition of drunkardness. You do your own thing, okay? You have your own power, your own pride. Yeah. Which waxeth old and shall perish in Babylon, even Babylon the Great, which shall fall. And we talk about Babylon in a second coming sense all the time, right? Okay, so see how similar the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. It's polluted. It's the wickedness causes a mourning of the earth, right? Therefore, because they have transgressed the laws, the people, the inhabitants, changed the ordinances. They've changed them and broken the everlasting covenant. Now, how could you break it if you've never received it? How could you break it if it wasn't a part of you? How could you break that covenant if you haven't received it? It's so you see where I'm going with this? In my opinion, therefore the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. Guys, this is talking about our day. And we need to go back to chapter 28 and say, yes, it did talk about the invasion of Assyria into the northern kingdom of Israel and scatter the 10 tribes. Absolutely. But it's also about our day, and specifically about Ephraim being so proud. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know who my ancestors are? You know, that's what happens quite often when people are blessed. So Ephraim was blessed with this wonderful rich land, the fat valley, right? And the same thing happens, especially I think, to the pioneer states, we'll call them. You know, the Utah pioneer stock, and you know the other areas, the pioneer corridor, if you will, of states that are basically connected. And then we get into this also this intellectual status too, and the scholarly, you know, oh, I know so much and I'm so important. And I think that's what this is getting to. But both point to breaking the everlasting covenant. The everlasting covenant. And to me, my definition of the everlasting covenant is the doctrine of Christ. It's the doctrine of Christ. It's first repenting. Actually, it's first faith in Christ, right? And I don't really like to do first, because it's in a cycle, right? But the way we hear it out of Second and Third Nephi, many places in the Doctrine and Covenants, is faith in Christ and his atonement, what he did for us. Okay, faith in that. Repenting, that's the humble part. That's like, I'm going to do it your way, not my way. We're not drunk then. Repenting is the opposite of being drunk. Okay, the gateway ordinance of baptism, receiving the Holy Ghost at that time, and then staying on the covenant path, as our prophet has said. Have you noticed there's these phrases that get really, gathering scattered Israel, boom, big. Staying on the covenant path, boom, it's repeated over and over and over again. These are cool things. So that enduring, so if you break that covenant, the new and everlasting covenant, the culmination of that is sealing, or we can say marriage is the culmination. Some people say that is the definition of the new and everlasting covenant, is the new and everlasting covenant of a man and a woman being sealed to God, individually being sealed to God as a couple, right? It's so cool, that triangle. But from all the things I've read and studied, I feel like it's the endowment and everything is the total package. It's from baptism and repenting prior to and being ready to be baptized, all and then the staying on that covenant path and receiving all that the Father has for us. Well, you can't break that covenant unless you've received it. So in my opinion, this chapter 28 is perfect for our day, and it's easy for Ephraimites, as they say in Israel, Ephraimites, to be drunk. It is. It's easy for us to be drunk. We've had so many blessings. We rely on what our great ancestors did in the past. We get to revel in that, and then we get to be the kind of the important ones and the ones that have all this knowledge and understanding, because those poor pioneers or the first members of the church, they just couldn't quite live it. And so that's why they didn't get the New Jerusalem, because they just weren't quite good enough. And they, oh, who cares? They don't have the challenges we have today, which is true, but we didn't have the challenges they had either. So anyway, we get into this mode of I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty important. I'm a big deal. Don't you know who I am, kind of thing. And I think that's what the drunkards of Ephraim. And it's interesting that it's specific to Ephraim, isn't it? I think so. So that's my take on that, kind of a latter day thing. The last thing I wanted to talk about that has a little bit to do with that. I watched a little bit of the Queen, her coffin being taken, from, I don't know. I don't know all the places. I've never been to England or London or any of those places before. Have a trip planned for next year for there. Put some money down on it. So hopefully that'll happen. But she had the crown, which was on the casket, the orb, which is so interesting to me, and then you have the not the staff, what's it called? You have the scepter. The scepter. So you have those three items that all depict authority from God. There's the beautiful painting that has been attributed to Leonardo da Vinci of Christ, and kind of the blessing, the blessing hand, and then holding the orb. And I might have those in the wrong order, but holding the orb, the globe, the world, if you will, in his hand. And so the Queen, I think, I looked this up at one time, and I'm just going by memory, but I think it was, I don't know if it was around 1100 or 16. I can't remember, but it wasn't like anciently. So probably similar to the time that Leonardo da Vinci lived, and maybe you guys can look that up. But this idea of them having the scepter and the orb, they probably had a crown before. I can't remember, but it said that signified that they were ordained of God for that position that they had, the king or the queen. I think it's very significant. And then that painting of Christ holding that orb is just so fascinating. I think somebody anonymous bought it for $450 million recently. And it's, I can't remember. It sounds kind of a Latin name or something that Leonardo did it under, like it wasn't his name. And so there's some, chance that it might not have been him, but they're pretty confident it was his work. But Leonardo's an interesting guy. He basically disappeared for 2 years as a young man and came back with all this knowledge. And it's like, you know what? Very similar to, the Native American wasn't 2 years, but they called it the Vision Quest. We send young men out and young women, for 18 months, 2 years. There's military service for other people. They go for a year or two or whatever, to kind of see what they're made of and see if they can get some further insights. And most people that have had that type of experience, whether it's military, whether it's a mission, whether the Peace Corps or in some sense school, but school's so screwed up now. In my opinion, the higher learning is so messed up. it's really hard to have that challenge. You know, somebody might go work on a ranch for a couple of years or something like that, where they have some time to just contemplate who am I, what am I, what am I going to do, you know, how am I going to contribute to this world, you know, kind of thing. And Leonardo came back with some amazing stuff after that 2 years, and then he continued his. And think of the great, brilliant, you know, you had Michelangelo and all these other just amazing talent, artists, scientists, wonderful people that did so much during that Renaissance period. And they were young, and they preserved so many good things in their artwork and their painting, and so much of it was religious. And I know they were commissioned to do that too, right? We understand that, but I think they took their commission serious and wanted to convey images through their art, whether it was sculpture or painting, sketches, whatever it was. They wanted to portray what they visualized in the written word, in my opinion. Anyway, that's a little bit off that, but in watching that representation of the queen and the scepter and the orb and all that kind of stuff, it really, it may not be pointing towards Christ, but they're trying to at least acknowledge the higher being of authority, of keys, if you will. And so it's fascinating. Now, I know a lot of you have issues with the royal family. I've heard most of what you're referring to, and I understand it, and I don't think you're wrong. But I don't think we can paint with a broad brush and say they're all bad, they're all evil. And I just don't feel that way. That's just me. I've watched some of the services, not just for the Queen, but for her husband previously last year, I think it was. And I felt the Spirit. And the readings and the worshiping of the Lord, I think, are significant. Now, you know, it's easy to point out, particularly among some of them, the horrible things, and then some of their affiliations of some of them. But let's not. I would be careful on the affiliation thing. I mean, we have apostles that have been part of the CFR, you know, and the Council of Foreign Relations and some other groups that have some really sketchy things, and they have affiliation with them. But we don't, you know, run and say, oh, you know what? But for some reason, that royal family is a target. But I get it. So please don't think that I don't know about those things. I do, and I acknowledge it. But I do think that there's wisdom in looking at the representation of royalty, and that it actually their positions come from God, I think is really interesting, because we say the same thing. I have a card. If I can find it here. I can't find it right off the bat here, but it's in here somewhere, that I can trace my priesthood authority right back to Jesus Christ, who gave it to Joseph and Hiram. Hiram then gave it to Sidney Rigdon. Sidney Rigdon gave it to Brigham Young. Brigham Young gave it to somebody, and on down to Sterling W. Seal, who gave it to my father, and then my father gave it to me. I thought it was right here. I have a box of them, and it's here somewhere. So I've done the same thing, and I feel very good about it. So you see what I'm saying? Okay. So that's it for this video. think about the drunkards of Ephraim. Let's not be one of those. Let's not think of our own sense of power, pride, and glory. Let's give glory to God and his son, Jesus Christ. Let's submit to their will. Let's not fall into the same trap of Ephraim of old. God bless. We'll talk to you soon.